Oh yeah, everybody, let's go. It is your boy Rico No Suave. Oh man, I am super happy. Man, when it comes down to just being here with each one of you guys, I have to say that I just love and I miss you all always. The one thing about that I miss you all is that I know that I have really great content. I got really great guests coming up for you. And we have a lot of great stuff coming up for you as well, too, everyone. We got a lot of great things that I will tell you, of course, on our next shows coming up as far as who we're partnering with. But hey, all I have to say is the show is growing, and thank you guys so much for your continuous support. You already know. All right, let's get this show on the road, everybody, because we talk about awareness, right? And when we talk about awareness, one of the biggest things that's always has been hurting America, besides other things, is this is Awareness Month for diabetes. Yes, diabetes is a Diabetes Awareness Month, everyone. And, unfortunately, my father, rest in peace, he's actually was a diabetic. And also, looking at his life and things that he has done, it was a lot. It was a lot. So this is, the month for diabetes. And we want you to make sure that if you have that within your family, please go to the doctor, get it all checked out, everyone. Make sure you please stay on top of that because you can. And I have to say that I've seen some people that actually went through the regimen and actually taking their steps to basically minimize it, where diabetes doesn't even, it's probably there in the background, but it really doesn't exist because of them taking care of themselves. Make sure you exercise, make sure you drink water, make sure you stay on top of your sugar levels. I like muffins. I know I love muffins, but I have to tell you that when it comes down to it, everyone, please make sure you take care of yourselves, take care of your family members, and of course, our citizens that's out there that is fighting with this. We love you guys and everything. All right, everybody. Yes, that is Diabetes Awareness Month. I got to introduce this gentleman. Hey, I was going to use, I told my God, I was like, listen, it's a jungle out there. You know what I mean? When there's a jungle out there, I was going to wear my safari hat, man, because I was going to be with him, right? This gentleman is unique. When I say unique, it's in a good way. It's in a special way. He's almost like when you talk to him, he's a hero to you. He's iconic. He have won so many, when I say won, milestones, goals, and also big time records in his life when it comes to him pursuing his journey as an entertainer. I want you guys to stand up, put your hands together, use binoculars if you want to, because my man, the Lizard Man, is on the show. Let's go. Lizard Man, are you there?
Yeah.
Come on, let's go.
Wow. I'm awestruck by that introduction. I mean, I introduce me all the time, and I don't sound that good when I introduce me. I've been introducing myself for a living for 28 years, and even I don't build myself up that much.
Hey, you know what? Hey, listen, man, the thing I have to say is this is what we talked about behind the scenes of making sure you introduce the person right. Yeah. That's the whole biggest thing. And of course, man, you deserve it.
It's nice to hear somebody else say it,
That's right.
I was like, wow, that doesn't sound like my voice.
Hey, I have to do it right, man. I have to do it right because I have somebody special. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you doing? You doing good?
I am doing very well. I am at home in Austin, relaxing and enjoying myself.
Let's go. Well, we're going to keep that enjoyment going because you're in Texas, and where we're at, it's not like Texas, and the weather of all places will keep, me happy if I was there too. So, but I'm happy that you're here because you're giving me that heat. It's the heat right now. Let's go.
Right. We send you some virtual warmth.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. All right. Let's get it on.
All right.
There's always things that happens in people's lives when it comes down to you as the Lizard Man. But there was the before, and there's always going into the present to the future. Let's talk about beforehand. Before the Lizard Man, What was life growing up?
Life growing up for me was, if anything, hard to actually explain to a lot of people just because I come from a very small town. And when you say like small town, it's something that I don't think, it's something that I know like my nieces and nephews, it's a completely foreign concept to them. Like we had to drive 30 miles to the nearest grocery store where I grew up. I grew up in a little town called Ellenburg, New York. It was 1,500 people
Wow.
roughly, but they weren't like all together in one spot either. It was, Ellenburg covers a large geographic area just to include enough houses in it to be called a town, but we're not, it wasn't like I grew up with neighbors. My nearest neighbor was more than half a mile away, in one direction. In the other direction, it was several miles before you saw another building, much less, someplace that somebody lived. We're talking about, it's dairy farming community, and now there's a lot of prisons up in that area too. So like for occupations, you basically, all my friends growing up, their dads either worked in the prison system, were farmers, or were teachers. Both my parents were teachers.
Okay.
So in that environment, especially, for me academically, I ended up growing up kind of big fish in a small pond sort of syndrome. It was, very easy to get to the top with, and you don't know, growing up that that's the competition level, that it's not like that until you kind of get out and see more of the world. But it does set you up well, or at least it set me up well with that sort of, the unearned overconfidence of youth. I was brimming with that. I was, so convinced after, growing up in this small town that I was like, well, if the rest of the world is like this, obviously I can conquer it. Right.
Right.
It was also just like, like I say, I don't like just peaceful to a point. Like there was, no real crime in that area. There's nothing going on. Right.
Right.
But I grew up I grew up too, like, for me, and because it's the 70s and the 80s, right. My parents never thought twice about it. In fact, I was supposed to get on my bike and go miles away and do stuff. I was supposed to go camping and be out of contact with all of humanity for, weeks at a time. And because we were where we were, it was upstate New York, the winters up there, like there's a certain amount of isolation in it, but it teaches you to, get comfortable with yourself because you're going to spend a lot of time indoors. Right. And there's also an aspect of it. Like we heated our entire house by wood. My parents built the log cabin that I grew up in the woods.
Wow.
I mean, that should give you an idea of sort of the mindset there and where they, were. Like there's a little bit of a homesteading kind of an idea and vibe they had. So, but I grew up with that. So it was like in the summertime, you cut and stalk the wood to heat the house during the winter.
Right.
And, it's a lifestyle that teaches preparedness and habit as a matter of, survival.
Yeah.
It wasn't like my mom or dad ever sat me down and said, hey, you got to do this because this is coming, whatever. It was like, no, that's reality. It becomes very apparent very fast when that's your environment.
That's wow. We talk about discipline. We talk about discipline when you live in a city life of
Right.
trying to not have distractions. And when we don't have those distractions, or when we do have those distractions, it's hard because there's temptation to be able to do other things.
Right.
In
When
your
you've
life,
you've
it
got
was
a million
different.
different options to choose from.
Yep.
You're going to choose what, right, like that. But if there's only like, oh well, then if there's nothing else to do, then you just do the thing you've got in front of you.
Right. And that's where I was going to, because there was nothing else but to stay disciplined from where you were at.
Oh yeah. That's talk about like I make the point like the grocery store 30 miles away. There was a convenience store right in town where you could get emergency or whatever. But very quickly, I grew up in the environment of it. It wasn't you couldn't go down to the corner and get a quart of milk or whatever. You had to look at what you had, and sort of every day you learned to do a mental inventory and rationing of like, well, if I do this today, that's going to run out in X amount. So to stretch it out to whenever you're going to make that trip again, or when that's going to be an option. If it's the winter too, like you're planning around like, oh, the weather's good, should probably stock up until the weather's going to be good again because it's going to turn bad in the middle. right?
Yeah.
That sort of preparedness is just a natural thing. It's not something, like I said, that you sort of have a life lesson about or whatever. It just sort of ingrains in you, and then maybe you turn around later in life and go, oh, I guess that's where I got that habit, that process.
Yeah. Do you feel that that was a good process that you went through at your earlier age of
Oh,
knowing that, knowing how other people like city life, of course, versus to when you were growing up? Did you feel that there was kind of a difference of, was it kind of like a difference of, oh my God, I can't believe that this life is like that, versus to where
right.
I was
Yeah.
before? Yeah.
The other part of my childhood growing up is that my mom's family. So I grew up in the same small town that my dad did, but he met my mom at college in Colorado. My mom grew up in Denver, and so for family trips, we drove out there a couple of times, and we would fly out for holidays. But I'd go visit grandma and grandpa in Denver, so I got a taste of a big city. And I got to travel because most people that are if you're born in Clinton County, New York, you live and die in Clinton County, New York. Maybe you take a vacation or two, but it's like I say, it's that level of small town. People don't know that
Right.
it's generational, and I mean, which has its pros and its cons. But I did get to see a bit more of that because my dad, in addition to being a teacher, had a military career because he was drafted for Vietnam, and that meant that we moved around a lot until I was by the time I was in elementary school, we were stable. But he got different posts where we could stay where we were, and he would travel to and from for them. But that meant that I had a little bit of travel experience in there, and that we would go visit friends that he had made when he had other posts and when we lived in other places. So from an early age, I had a lot more experience than even a lot of the adults I dealt with growing up in this small town in that way. So I knew that there was a difference between it and between the two, and in a very typical small town kid kind of way, right? I dreamed of, I'm going to be so much bigger than this town type of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, I've always, thought about that because it's almost feels like it's colonization, right? Where you're actually in, we call them pueblos, where they're like little cities, right? But they are like there where everything else may be an hour away just to get to it, where you
Right.
feel like, oh, I feel like I'm somewhere else versus the city life, of course, where you got people move out the way. I mean, taxi
Right.
drivers, you got all that different types of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
when you're thinking of when you're looking at that, I look at it like this because I'm a fisherman. I love to fish and I love the wilderness. So I love nature. So I think for me, it's more of like, well, will I ever get bored fishing and just being patient and being able to learn on my own versus to
Right.
understand, will I go into the city life and know how to adapt to the fast paced life, right? And
Right.
also as well too, I feel there's a kind of a 50-50 of, I don't know how I would feel if I was to go to the city or how I would feel if I was in the area of trying to teach myself. But I think the discipline piece
Right.
is good. I think that's a really good place
I,
to actually be and be surreal and
yeah.
know
I
yourself
think if
as
if
well.
you've got those skills, like you say, and you enjoy being out there, so camping and fishing, hunting, that was all a big part of my life growing up because of
Yeah.
where we were in that environment. And so and that teaches you things you learn about it. I think once you get comfortable being by yourself, and and not just in a survival sense, but in a hey, I'm okay, not having people around, that can
Yeah.
become like a refuge because like you're saying, the city style, like going in, it's a completely different set of skills, and it's mostly
Mm-hmm.
people based skills, right? So
Yeah.
if your people skills are failing you, or you don't have the greatest amount of confidence in them, well, you can always go back to solitude if you've got that skill.
Right.
The flip side of that is some people, when left alone, will absolutely go out of their mind very quickly because that's what they've got. They have the social skill that they lean on.
Yeah. And I think, I can talk about that all day, me being a nerd, and but they gotta have social skills
Yeah.
when it
Well,
comes out to
it's like and it's the problem is that the thing that a lot of us hated in school, like the group project, right? That's what life is.
Yeah.
It's a group project, and we're all getting graded together. So
Right.
You can
Right.
yell and scream about that guy over there not doing his part, but you're still going to get the same grade.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm glad that we were able to talk about the before when the lizard man was the lizard man and the way that the lizard man is today. Now we have to talk about the transformation because the transformation piece, and we do have people that's actually tuning in right now. Hello, Beatrice. Thank you so much. And also John T for free. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. One of the biggest things that we as human we transform ourselves in different ways, right? And when we
Right.
talk about this, you're very iconic, and when we talk about you being iconic, there's a transformation piece of why you decided to become the lizard man. So talk to us in regards to how did you come with that transformation decision?
So what happened, kind of say originally, because I can trace a lot of this back, and it's one of those things where, it's not like I woke up one day and said, "Oh, that's it, I'm going to be Lizard Man," right? It didn't happen like that. But there were inspirations and ideas that gradually came together, and before it was even Lizard Man, it was an idea of transforming myself both in appearance and behavior to something that didn't seem human. And this was because early on in my sort of career in philosophy or attempts at philosophy, one of the things that jumped out at me was differences between people's professed knowledge and their actual behavior. And one example of that is to say, if I point at someone and I ask you, "Is that a human being?" You'll say, "Yeah, sure, that's a human being." Right? But what is a human being? If I actually ask you to start defining it, most people will start listing biological criteria. They'll talk
Right.
about chromosomes or cell structure, mammal species, blah 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 blah. Now those attempts, that's kind of a philosophical wormhole that's fun to go down, which is, can you even do that? Because I've actually recently worked with biologists who one of their big sort of points is that human isn't a biological thing. In fact, only about 80% of us is biologically human. We have things like mitochondria and other things going on that are either shared and not unique, or aren't actually part of human genetic structure. But anyway, going back to the reason I wanted to do the transformation was because people decide whether or not something is human based on not on its physical characteristic. You don't go get a blood sample, right?
Right.
They base that on what it appears to be and how it acts. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, looks
It
like
is
a
a
duck,
duck.
probably a duck. We do
Right.
the same thing with human beings. If it looks like a human being,
Yeah.
acts like a human being, sounds like a human being, it's a human being. That's why the great thing about like aliens and horror movies with other beings taking on our shape. That's how easy it is to convince us that you're human. Just look like us and talk like us.
Yeah.
We'll immediately be like, well, that's a human being. And so the interesting question to me became, as a performance artist, how could I explore that gap between our professed knowledge and our application, our actual behavior? And the idea was to see what happens when you don't look human and you don't act human. You do, or you commit human acts. Will people say, well, oh, that's just, obviously he's human, that's just more of what we would include? Or do they start to get exclusionary with the definition and be like, well, no, that's not human? And it's been borne out in a couple of cases by the way that people have reacted to me. These are like gut reactions. And I know that if you pressed them, they'd be like, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean biologically. But people have actually had their initial reaction to be like, he's not human, or is he human? Like those are ways that many people have reacted to me over the years, because
Wow.
that's how it just hits them, immediately. They have this moment of, is that even a person?
Right. Right. I
That, to me,
think
that justifies the product. That makes 18-year-old me so happy. When that
to be able to transform comes with the decision of saying, where did the lizard come from?
Right. So
Where did
once
that
I
come
actually committed to the idea that I wanted to do this transformation, where I wanted to sort of, strip away my humanity, or at least be able to hide it in this way, then I had to decide, well, how am I going to do it? And I also kind of looked at this in the context of, I had been learning about the history of tattooed people who had gotten purposely tattooed to exhibit themselves. right? And I was looking at some of the most successful ones in history and sort of trying to figure out, like, well, is there a formula to this, right? How do you do this and not end up on the streets begging for change?
Right.
Which is, a lot of people think I do anyway. But as a street performer, you're always going to
Right.
get that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started going through. I had a list of different possibilities. I had a notebook where I'd be like, "Oh, well, I could do this," and I sort of came up with ideas that I thought were cool, but they weren't right for me. And one that I kept coming back to was reptilian scales. And then when I started to consider further aspects beyond just tattooing my entire body, things like filing my teeth, bifurcating my tongue, and the implants on my forehead, I realized that they all could tie into a reptilian theme. And I really started to think about, reptiles as symbols culturally and in art. And I've always been kind of drawn to them and thought that that one works. And big Godzilla fan as a kid. It's the one that felt right. It's basically going and picking out a suit. It's just the suit you have to wear for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I mean, I like lizards. I ain't gonna lie. I like lizards.
Yeah.
And
but
when
I'm saying, who doesn't like? Come on, you gotta like lizards.
you gotta like lizards, right? I like
every
lizards.
Every kid loves dinosaurs. You're gonna tell me every kid is wrong, right? Everybody loves dinosaurs, even if you don't love them so much anymore because you got old and jaded. The hell with you, anyway. But dinosaurs are cool. That's what
They are.
I'm the human dinosaur. That's
Yes, sir.
I'm shocked when I tell them that, like, kids love me. And that's why, when I worked with Ripley's, one of the things that made me very popular was the fact that to kids, I'm better than Barney, right?
Yeah, you the adult Barney to us.
I'm not nearly as like Barney. If you've ever seen one of the costume Barneys, I feel like they could crush me. Like I'm more closer to the kid's side. I'm non-threatening. Like me and the kids can get along.
I love it, man. Hey, I love what you did for yourself because you're an entertainer as well too. And sometimes when we say, "Hey, we're an entertainer," we do take it to a certain level, but you took it as far as iconic level, right? Some people have their voice. Some people have, their voice as far as singing. Some people have their hands where they can actually play a piano or they're playing an instrument. They're iconic and unique in that way. For you, it's like the lizard man is the lizard man. There's no other lizard man that can be like him.
What are the other things? This is one of my thoughts too. Is that I'm like there are certain things, and I used to think of Jackson Pollock in this way. Jackson Pollock's painting, where especially the ones that he did with like propellers and stuff, kind of automatically. I was like, society is always willing to let one person get away with something. Like everything can be gotten away with once.
Yes.
Maybe twice or like once a generation. So there could be multiples, but then not at the same time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the guy that gets away with this generation. I'm thinking I'm going to, because like you said that, some people have beautiful voices and they train them or they learn an instrument. I'm like, I took the shortcut by being willing to be the guy who's like, I'll be green. I will go through a lot of pain and suffering to be green.
Yeah.
And you guys let me have that. And there's society who's like, okay, deal.
And that comes, we're going to be taking a quick commercial break, but I do want to continue this conversation after our break. The transformation when you decide to become the lizard man, it's not just putting on a costume, like you said, not putting on a suit, but this is forever. When you started with the pieces because this is all a puzzle for you, like this is like you're doing one thing after another. What did you start off with?
So I had initially, if you were talking about like really my true first body modification, beyond being circumcised, but I didn't really have a choice in that one. Nobody asked me. I don't even remember it happening. But, that thing's gone, so I lost it somewhere. But I pierced my ears when I was 18, and that was sort of my first genuine body modification, I guess. And then after that, it was tattooing, and I was really kind of focused on tattooing for the first couple of years. But it is one of the things like, so you start off by hanging out there, and I got more into, because I was actually, it wasn't play piercing. Like I would pierce myself with needles, but not leave, keep them in or not put jewelry in. then I sort of, picked up a few more piercings over time, and then started finding out ideas of what might be more possible. And when I decided that, or when I realized that tongue splitting was probably possible, and then I just decided I wanted it, that's what really kind of drove me down that. And at that point, I had sort of opened up and had access to this entire world of stuff that, even just a couple of years before, I didn't really know about, didn't know was possible, but sort of all resonated with me so strongly. I'm like, oh yeah, I can use this. This is going to work for me and for my art and what I'm trying to do.
Wow. Because so those actually look like your skin is scaly. Like it looks like your skin is straight, like up top. It looked like it's actually scaled. So is that tattoo or is that engraved?
Oh, this is all just, it's all tattooed.
Okay.
And so, but there's, a little bit more detailed work than I think people realize going into it. There's basically the tips of the scales are highlighted to give them a little bit more depth, either highlighted or just empty skin or negative space in some cases. But yeah, it's just the overlay works really well. And that's another reason that I picked scales was when I was making my list of ideas, I was also, even before I had any tattooing work on me, I had been, because at heart or at core, I'm a nerd. What did I do? I went to the library and I started reading all the books I could find. And so I was starting to think in terms of aging. I'm like, well, if I'm lucky enough, to live long enough, you want it to still look decent. So you start to realize certain design elements just don't age well. And, of course, I'm starting to look at more and more tattoo books, and you see some of the older ones, and you just sort of, learn these things, and you talk to tattoo artists and figure it out. And so, a lot of it was designed so that it could make it simple, but in a way that works. That was sort of the idea behind the aesthetic, was we could have gone for a lot more detail and a lot more to it, but the idea was, let's get something that looks natural enough and will hold up in age.
Yeah, my man. If you don't know by now, this is the Lizard Man on the Rico No Suave show. He is an entertainer, but hey, I am super happy that you're here on my show, dude, because hey, it's like I'm talking to a movie right now. I'm talking to the movie, and I'm like, the Lizard Man is here. Hey, Lizard Man, we got to take a quick break. Welcome to the show.
Bills.
Everybody, we got 30 seconds. Yeah, we got to pay those bills, right? 30 seconds, everybody. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody. Hey, Lizard Man, are you having a good time?
I'm having a great time, man.
Let's go, man. Let's go. Like you're my new buddy, reptile style, jungle style. Right. We're doing it, man. We're doing it. I'm loving this,
everybody
man.
Everybody needs a green friend.
Hey, we keep it green. We go green around here. Hey, so let's keep this going, because with the transformation, because it looks so real, and you're definitely made for TV on this. When it comes to, so now you have the tattoos, and you actually, I'm sorry, it's the earlobes, right? You have the rings on the ears, and then you have the tattoos, right?
Well,
did you have long hair?
I'll take you very quickly through the timeline. So,
okay, cool.
So I was 18 when I pierced my ears, but I didn't stretch them until I was a bit older, and after I started getting tattooed. So I started getting tattooed in 1994, a little bit before, late January. So I was 21 at the time, before my 22nd birthday. Started getting tattooed, and then was in process from 1994 until the last scale that I had empty was kind of became like a big coloring book, was filled in 2019. So it was 25 years to the month from start to finish. But early on, about 97, so it was 1997 when I had my tongue split into 1998. Had my teeth
Wow.
filed at the points, and in 1999, the very beginning of 1999 is when I had my implants done on my forehead. Now, at that time when I had the implants done on my forehead, my face hadn't been tattooed yet, and I was still growing out my hair. In fact, for the first couple of years that I was on tours, people who might have seen me back then, back like early days when I was with the Jim Rose Circus, and the first year that I did the Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, I had hair that I dyed green, or at least partially dyed green. And just because at that point, I just hadn't fully committed to keeping my head shaved the whole time. And I kind of had a couple of different ideas about what I might have done in terms of like the markings. Like you see, I ended up just going with a mohawk stripe down the center, but I had some other ideas that I had to just sort of figure out and settle on before I was ready to do it. And so, yes, that takes you about there. And like you said, so there was that start the tattooing in 94, and I would say started stretching my earlobes probably in 96.
Okay.
Yeah. But it gives you a general idea of what's been done and about when.
Yeah, that's cool. Is that your hair or is that a tattoo of a mohawk?
It's a tattoo. It's tattooed on. Yeah.
Mm.
The convenient thing is that every now and then I will let my hair grow back out. So I've done it before. So, now I have a simple guide so I can keep the mohawk straight when I do grow it in.
Yeah. Right. You at least have the line there so the barber will be make it easy.
This is what one of the cruel jokes of nature here is. So I'm the only man in my family to make it to 30 without going bald. Right? I'm 52 now, and I still have a full head of hair. I have to shave my head.
Nice.
Every damn day to show this off, right? To have
Let's
it right.
go.
Whereas all my cousins, my dad, like all bald. And I was like, that would make my life so much easier, but I got a full head of hair.
Oh, that is so awesome, man. That's awesome. We got Nancy Otero. Nancy Otero said, I grew up watching him.
Yeah. I get a lot of that these days because it's about the right time now for people that were kids who watched like my first appearance on Ripley's, believe it or not, 2000. And then I was just, kind of like a de facto spokesperson for them for about the next 12 years. I was always doing appearances, TV morning shows, and little plugs for the books and things like that. So, I mean, that's where a lot of people knew me if they were in that Ripley's age group, which was like 8 to 13. And then there's about that same time, 2003 to 2008, I was the host of the Jägermeister music tour. So twice a year I was going out and I was hosting these music tours with bands like Disturbed and Slipknot and Slayer and traveling out. So I had a lot of like the 18 to 24-year-olds of that time that made up the audiences of those shows. So there's like, a generation where I got the top and the bottom of it between those two, between Ripley's and those tours. And now they're all getting a little bit older to the point where, it's time for their nostalgia to kick in, right?
Right.
It's been 20 years. So now they're the, adults having their nostalgia kick.
Wow. Let's talk about the piece that I think we're missing, which is the teeth. So the teeth piece of you filing the teeth. Yeah, we're gonna put that on a big screen. Let's put that on a big screen. So with the teeth itself, so are all of them filed?
No, there's just the four front teeth in the top. So it's my two front teeth and the eye teeth on either side.
Okay.
And then I just kind of had naturally prominent canines, upper and lower, which, with all of them together, just kind of creates that effect.
And how is it eating?
It's no different than before, really. There's I might bite into something a little bit differently now. The one that I usually point out is for like an apple. If I'm going to eat an apple, not slice, like just bite into an apple.
Yeah.
If I just bite into it like that, what happens is the four front teeth, the sharp ones, they just tear strips.
Yeah, just so, like a lizard.
Instead of biting down, I have to bite my lower teeth. What I do is I lock my top teeth in, and my lower jaw scoops the bite out.
I see.
I mean, that's probably the biggest difference that I've noticed, and now in, was it like 26 years of having my teeth filed. Like when I first got them, there wasn't a huge adjustment.
Wow. Because John T, that was a great question. Thank you, John T. for asking that question. That was a very good question. And then Nancy Otero says, yes, that was she will remember seeing you on Ripley's. Beatrice actually says, and of course we're talking about where you're at now and how the modification and the transformation of you being the lizard man. She asked the question, what does the future hold for the lizard man in terms of additional modifications? He says, by that I mean, will lizard man she said man's, and I'm almost thinking that there's multiple ones of you. Transformation continue to evolve.
I mean, there's kind of there's 33 other me's around the world in statue form, thanks to Ripley's.
Nice.
But in terms of like modification from here on out, like I said, I mentioned before, in January of 2019, I had the last empty scales filled in green. So at that point, it was sort of that's kind of a mile marker for me, or a milestone where I'd be like, all right, if nothing else happens from this point on, I've finished all that I started. That being said, I do have plans for, probably doing a little bit of a touch up, maybe some slight modifications to things. And, who knows, we might have a technological breakthrough, some new body modification could come along that, appeals to me that I could go for. I'm kind of just, open to those possibilities. But you see, what happened is, like, say, those last 3 scales being filled in 2019, my plan back then was I was going to take a year and just sort of, make a plan, think about what I wanted to do and see what would happen. And, what happened was in a year, it was COVID.
That's right.
And,
2020.
All bets are off.
Yeah. Wow. Man, that is awesome. So there is another question because, time fly by fast when we're having fun. And I have to tell you, just by you being here, I could talk to you forever because you are the lizard man. And you're like almost one of my favorite personal characters now, like my favorite good friend character. So when you're looking at, being an iconic hero or a villain in a good way, based off of movies, what does the lizard man see as himself?
Yeah, I am not even 100% sure about the question, like what it means. Like, if it's in terms of like, what if there's, because it's almost like, if someone sets out to be a role model, then they should never be a role model, right? So that was, I never had any, the idea was never, or I don't want people to ever think that I sit down and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this for Sideshow or for body modification. I'm going to be its representative or whatever. It's like, no, I was very, very selfishly, trying to go out and live life on my own terms and have fun doing it. And, in the course of actually succeeding at that, a number of people, have said they were inspired in various ways by it. And also it means that I get a lot of attention, or I have garnered a lot of attention over the years. So you talk about the Ripley stuff, which is, it's, kind of wild. If you think about, this kid that grows up in the middle of nowhere on the Canadian border ends up with statues around the world. Like I've made jokes on stage about like, what's it going to be like in 1,000 years when archaeologists of the future find statues of me on every continent? Like, who was this guy? What was he? Did an alien come down and they had a cult or something? Like what's going on with it? Like how, because how hard it is and how, things get lost to history. I'm like, it's going to be, it might just happen that, I become this weird thing in the future, but that's not, obviously, like I said, what started doing. Now, once that starts to happen, though, when I get people coming up to me, like, especially like at shows, stuff like that, like that woman who said she saw me on Ripley, I had a woman in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago at a show. She came up to me and she was like, hi, I just wanted to say hello and meet you and tell you that, when I was a little girl, you kind of, inspired me and made me feel okay to be myself. And, whatever. And she was a vendor actually at the event that I was performing at. She's like, I started my business, like that. And she's like, I've just always wanted to meet you because I thought that you were inspiring when I was a kid. And I'm like, that's really nice and whatever. But the other side of that is I'm like, yeah, it's not like that's what I was trying to do. I'm glad that happened. That's wonderful, right? It's a great story, and of course I'm grateful for her to even share it with me. But yeah, at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that's what happened when I just went out and tried to do something for myself and have fun with it. But like I say, now knowing that can happen, there does become a certain responsibility where I do sometimes think in terms of, if I act a certain way, if I do say, and this actually goes beyond me, it's a conversation I've had with other sideshow performers, because for a long time, sideshows had a hard time getting booked. Venues didn't want to take the risk. They thought that we were all, crazy and there's going to be liability. Somebody might get hurt or something's going to be damaged. So it was like you had to be on your best behavior. And that was it, because you represented all of sideshow. Whether you cared or not, you represented all of us. Well, the same thing, like when I go on a TV show or talk show like that, I am, even though I don't want to be, I'm the representative of all heavily modified people.
Yep.
And if I start acting a fool, if I start running around the streets doing dumbass shit,
right,
that's how certain people are going to go, see, they're all like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I now have found or had this responsibility placed on me to, hey, be a good representative.
Yeah, man. We're at the 45-minute mark already, and I'm tired of time. I don't like time when I have the lizard man on my time, and it's wasting. Time is wasting our time, and I don't like that, lizard man. But I'm in awe, man. I love having you here on the show, and the audience is loving it as well too. Very inspirational, but at the same time too, I love the way you're holding down your image. But, we got to pay some more bills. Everybody, it's the Lizard Man, the entertainer on the Rico No Suave show. Let's go, baby. And, hey, just sit back and relax. You know why? I got to talk about NASCAR. Let's go. This is NASCAR Moment. So, NASCAR Moments is all about that room and who's coming in first, who's coming in second. But, today, everyone, when we talk about when it gets chilly outside, based off of where you live, there's something called sweaters. Yeah, sweaters. Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. NASCAR got sweaters. Yes. If you love NASCAR, you're going to love their sweaters. You got for men and all for women. So make sure you heat up your look and make sure you go out there looking beautiful. Make sure you go to NASCAR.com. Check them out. Make sure you go ahead and grab you a NASCAR sweater for the fall, winter, and never summer, unless you really want to burn up. That was NASCAR Moments, everybody. That was NASCAR Moments. Let's get back to my man, Lizard Man, because I want to make sure that was real quick, because time is on our side, Lizard Man. Time is on our side. All right, so check this out. You said one thing that makes a big difference in general to all of us when we're iconic. You're very iconic, right? You're iconic in a way of you being an entertainer, but also your energy is going to connect with someone no matter what. No matter what you do, you have this image that connects with people, that loves to see it. And make sure that if you have that image, you want people to know that, hey, we're good people. We're just because we did a body modification, I'm still a good person, right? And you have an image to hold. So I think the young lady that came up to you and said, hey, I was able to really step outside the box and really understand who I was. It's like giving you your flowers and say, you know what, Lizard Man, you're going to connect with people that's going to love you, and it's going to connect with people that don't like you or just, they don't like that. But that's the way life is. You got the good and you got the good for certain people and not for certain people.
And that's it's the for who do you do it sort of question like that. And this kind of started to come into focus for me only a couple of years ago, where I actually did Das Supertalent, which is the German version of America's Got Talent, right? It's basically
nice.
Germany's Got Talent. But of course, just like the America's Got Talent, they bring in foreign performers. I've never quite understood it. That I get that it's a circuit, like they're all owned by the same people and how it works industry-wise. But It's weird to have it be a country's got talent and you bring in foreign performers. But anyway, I was brought in, and they picked from the acts that I did the acts that they wanted me to do, and I was like, okay, cool. It was for me, it was a paycheck. I'm not there to compete or whatever else. But I'm there. I was there so that they could get some of the grossest stunts that I do and use them for the commercial. Like that's the game. That's the industry game for it, which I'm fine with. But I tell other site performers all the time. I'm like, hey, don't let them sell you on the dream of winning. You never get to win. It's always the little kid magician or the singer or whoever else. The freak is there to attract eyeballs, to be on the commercial. Right.
Yeah.
So get your paycheck, do it with a smile, and walk away not caring that there was a contest at all. So that's what I was there to do. But I did my segment and it went great. And part of the crowd was grossed out. They got the reactions, but I had people cheering too. Right. I won over the ones that were there that were willing to have a good time in a weird way. But one of the judges afterwards, he said of one of the acts, he goes, "That's really," and the act is pumping my stomach. So he's not wrong when he said it was disgusting. Right. And I was like, "Oh, you're absolutely right. It is disgusting." He goes, "This act isn't for everyone." And I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly the point. Sideshow isn't for everyone. But for the people it is for, who are often in the minority, it's that much more important." And I think about, like, for me as a kid, I was that kid, right? I was a kid that was waiting for the old, Jack Palance Ripley's to come on so I could see something that was wild and crazy or unbelievable. I was the one that was watching the stunt shows but not just watching them because I wanted to see it, because I wanted to be it. When I saw somebody shove a sword down their throat, I was like, I wonder if I can do that. I wanted, if possible, I'm gonna do that. So now, and I think about, like I said, that question started to make me think about this more and more over the last few years. Where I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this for mass appeal anymore. I'm grateful for the mass appeal that I've had through like Ripley's and Guinness. That's great. But my motivation now is more for the next weirdo, the next lizard man, or the next person who needs to know that there are weirdos like me out there. That's it. And I'm doing it not for the mass popularity. I'm doing it for a very specific small group.
Yeah. Hey, so hi, Father Ivy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the questions. And this was kind of another question that that comes up when it comes to body, when you're doing your transformation or modification, is your tongue. Did they have to numb? The question was, when he got his tongue split, did he have it numb? And what was the healing process?
So with my tongue splitting, I originally had requested no anesthetic because I had a history of, I had a lot of teeth pulled when I was younger. I had too many baby teeth and a couple of extra adult teeth. And I knew from experience that my reaction to Novocaine and lidocaine was really excessive swelling, and it didn't completely numb me. But as it turned out, there had been improvements in formulation, I guess, or whatever. But essentially, I did end up getting one shot of lidocaine into my tongue, which didn't make me completely numb to the point where I didn't sense anything, but it did, the pain, to the extent that there was any, was minimal and kind of a dull kind of pain. It wasn't really much there. In fact, I felt the sutures afterwards more so, but the way that my tongue was actually split was it was burned in half with a biopsy laser. And so I could actually smell and taste my own burning tongue.
Wow.
As it was happening, which is a really, really wild sort of burnt meat flavor. And for me, being a vegetarian, it's something that I hadn't tasted meat since I was probably 6 or 7 years old.
Oh wow.
But so it was just sort of this weird, like, I kind of remember it tasting like that, but whatever it is, so that wasn't the most pleasant aspect. But then after it was burned in half, the mucosa, which is the sheath that's sort of around all the muscle tissue in there, we actually pulled the edges of that together and had it sutures along the inside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It down and gives it a more rounded look. It also helps prevent the regrowth. In fact, as the surgeon who worked on my tongue did more and more of the procedures, he sort of discovered that the suturing was the real key to getting a good deep tongue split to hold that doesn't grow back together over time.
Wow.
After we did mine as the first surgery and it was successful, he did a couple of other people's, and then I actually had him go back in and do mine even deeper at the same time as he removed my wisdom teeth. I figured if I've got to be in the chair and numbed up, I might as well do everything.
Wow, bro. This is real life stuff on the Rico No Suave. Make sure everybody listen, man. Yeah, let's go. Hey, I think that was almost the completion of the modification that I think we wanted to ask. But, Ms. Ivy, he said, is he close with his family and is it hard dating with his status? That's kind of, that's a good question.
Here, here's my status. My 21st wedding anniversary was yesterday.
Nice. Let's
So,
go. Let's go.
that makes things that makes dating a lot harder than any tattoo. The whole beating everything.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it, man. I love it. Hey, and I have to say, you love it for now. Is the other half is tattooed up as well or no?
She has a significant amount of tattoo coverage. She's recently begun adding to it a little more frequently. She started getting Friday the 13th tattoos. And,
Let's go.
And branching out. But for a while, she had a really nice theme to all the tattoos on her body were based on urban legends. So like kudzu vines coming up the strangler, blue star acid around her ankle.
Yeah.
Spider bite in her hair, black widow in there. So, kidney scars. She has as if her kidneys had been stolen.
Uh-huh.
But the thing was that, prior to some of her more recent work, she used to be able to do the whole, just get dressed and cover them up.
Got it.
Now
Got
she
it.
needs longer sleeves.
That's awesome, man. Man, we're down to our last 5 minutes. I want to say boo to Central Time. Boo. Man, I'm having such a great time with you. But of course, we have to talk about, giving you flowers in regards. And we talked about Ripley's Believe It or Not. And then you actually have the Guinness World Records as well, too. Yep. All I want to know is how you felt when you actually was presented that milestone. You accomplished that. What was it like for you to feel when you knew that you were going to be in this?
So, and there's a weird sort of real world backstory to why this is the way it is. So,
sure.
But for Ripley's, for me, was one of my very early on big moments, big things. The Ripley's TV show in 2000, and just when I was first contacted by them, it was a huge validation because, like I say, as a kid, one of my big influences was the Ripley's TV show in the 70s and the 80s. I watched that and I was inspired by it. And now to know that it was coming back, right, and to be offered the opportunity to be on it was one thing. Then as it unfolded, I wasn't just on it. I was in the opening credits. I was on billboards in Times Square, New York City. I was in magazines, TV Guides and Entertainment Weekly. They ran ads with my face on it there, that's when things started to become, I often talk about how, like, if I walk into someone's office, it becomes a very surreal day for them. And that's when it became surreal for me to sort of see that stuff. So it was, because like I said, that was very early on. And the part of the other side of this is because I was so awestruck and so happy just to do this, to write that story full circle, be the kid watching it, start to do these sorts of weird things, end up on that show in the museums, right? And because of that, I had kind of, just a little bit naive, whatever. I didn't make the best decisions, regarding dealing with them as a company and business wise. But still very, very happy and thrilled that it happened. Like from the beginning, it was huge. Whereas now with Guinness didn't happen for me until 2014, where I was already, this is, after I've done world tours and all this. So, I've had a lot of success and done a lot of other things, and I had set records. But the whole thing with world records is it's a business, right? And the business for Guinness is about publishing books about records. So, and they're the best known game. There are other people that certify world records. But I got to this point where I was like, well, I'm not going to jump through Guinness's hoops and nobody's going to be touching any of these records anyway. There's a lot of stuff with my ears mainly, which is the one that Guinness gave me. I've got, like I say, I hold a number of records, but the one that Guinness certified is the one for lifting and spinning a weight with my ears, which was one of my signature stunts. Now, for a while, the problem is that Ripley's and Guinness historically have been big competitors.
Right.
And a lot of the older people in those companies still hold that rivalry to the point where they're angry about it. To the point where, because Lizard Man was a Ripley's promoter, the Guinness people didn't want to give me a record, right? Didn't want to have a use for it, like, unless they could steal me away, sort of thing. But I'd already been sort of Ripley's cover boy. So there was a tension in it there. And there was some other stuff about it with dealing with them. But it's one of those things where I'm really glad when it actually finally happened, because it was a little bit of a chore, and say there's some behind the scenes drama with it before I actually got the record for that stunt.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that I checked that box, right? It would have been disappointing to go to do all the other things I've done and to not have a Guinness World Record. It'd be like, that would be the missing thing on the shelf or, on the bucket list. But so I've got it, I've checked the box. But at the end of the day, I can't say that it was the most overwhelmingly positive thing because, I knew I had that record. Other people, I'd already been recognized, sort of by the small community of us that do these sorts of things, and Pierce Weightlifting in this particular regard. So, it's more of a public thing. It's more of I've got this as a marketing thing, but I'm like, I've already got so much other, like, I kind of wonder if I didn't do more for them than they did for me. Because that's, a little bit about how it feels.
Nice. I'm sorry, audience, but we got to know one of the biggest things that you do as an entertainer that you're so proud of, and I'm sure you do a lot of acts, but what are some of the things that you can tell the audience that you actually do as an entertainer?
So, I do a collection of traditional and modern sideshow acts, a few of which I've created myself. And there's a few that are old ones that I'm just really particularly love the way that I do them. Like, I think that the human blockhead, which is when you insert an object into your nasal cavity, for the traditional version is sort of hammering a nail in. I tend to do it using a fork or other objects. I've always been sort of proud of that. There's my cranial corkscrew, which is a giant corkscrew that I actually twist through my head, which is one of my own inventions. One's always been one of my favorite acts to do. Sword swallowing for me was something that I can remember thinking, is that for real? Is that actually even a real thing? And then learning that it was, and then figuring out, can I learn how to do it? And actually taking a long time, but to, teaching myself, based off of research, and then just experimenting in my old apartment living room, literally with a bucket between my feet to vomit into,
right,
down my throat. Ooh. And so the idea that I just came off of doing a Halloween run in Orlando at SeaWorld, where I shoved a sword down my throat no less than 92 times. Yeah.
Wow.
And I just think about that now. It's like the fact that I now can do that, something that, should on the surface kill me, is something that I can do, not casually. I don't want to say casually, it's the wrong word, but it's something that I'm comfortable doing.
Sure.
It is a life-threatening activity that I have little or no anxiety about doing. That's, to me, is, I look at that and I go, wow, I can remember when that was, like I said, I didn't even know if it was real.
Wow.
So, I don't know. I love the fact that I can do it.
Wow, man. Oh, my God. We can keep going on, but I got to definitely have you back on the show. But right now, because of everything that you have said to us in the audience and because of who you are, we love to give flowers because you are a gem of the world. You're a unique gem of the world. You have an image behind you. I have this for you.
Oh, so thank you, man.
I have a shirt for you, sir. So I'm going to give you this shirt because you deserve it. I mean, there's so many things that you have done because of your milestones, because of your goals and things that you want to accomplish, that you have accomplished, let's say want to accomplish, but have accomplished. But you touched a unique world, man. And I have to say that having that body transformation has taken, either way you want to believe it or not, you're kind of iconic to me, right? And you're iconic to other people that don't have the confidence to be able to do something like that, but be able to see that through you and say, I want to live through him, right? And I love lizards, right?
This is the one that I always try and come back to and say, which is like, if you think that your idea for whatever you want to do
Yes, sir.
is too crazy, too stupid, too dumb, doesn't have a chance at working, just remember, tattooing myself green and cutting my tongue in half and shoving things in my face worked.
Yeah.
So if this idea had a chance and worked, I promise you whatever your dumb idea is at least has a chance to.
Let's go. Full-fledged. And listen, man, hey, you're a part of us now, right? You're part of the Rico No Suave show right now. So, and we appreciate you actually being on the show. Everybody, we got to show his social media because we want you guys to make sure you want to book him. You just want to go and see him. You want to meet him in person. Just say you saw him on the Rico No Suave show. Hopefully that helps. You know what I mean? So you make sure that actually happens.
When you do get to see me in person, whether it's at a show or like running through an airport or whatever it is, just say, "Hey, I saw you on the Rico No Suave show," and I'll know.
Yes, sir. Make sure you get that selfie too and send it for us. Instagram, everybody.
Don't be shy about asking for selfies.
Let's go.
I mean, if I am running through the airport, there's probably a reason. It might have to be a running selfie, but just run with me. I'm not that fast.
But in a good way, because you need to catch a plane.
That's why people sometimes ask, they're like, "Does it bother you if people ask for photos?" I'm like, "Depends on what I'm doing. Like, I ain't gonna miss my flight for you. I'll get you your selfie, but we ain't missing the flight."
Right. At the Lizardman 23, everybody, that's Instagram. You got to make sure you please go ahead and check him out as well. And then Lizardman 23 again on Facebook, everybody. Yes, make sure you go ahead and follow him as well on Instagram and Facebook. Last but not least, this is where it happens, baby. Lizardman.com. Make sure you go ahead and follow him there. Make sure you go and see everything that he's actually doing. Make sure if you want to go and book him, make sure you say, "The Rico No Suave show. I saw you and I can't wait to see you in person." Lizard Man, thank you so much for being on the show, man. And you're definitely a person that is very unique, special to us, and love everything that you're actually doing as an entertainer. We continue to want success for you, and that's going to happen no matter what. You and Ripley, believe it or not. So, and that's all we need to know. Again, it's Book of World Records. But thank you so much for being on the show, sir. I want you to enjoy your evening and tell the wifey, hey, keep tattooing it up. Keep that ink going, you know? All right, my man, I'll see you soon, all right? Everybody put your hands together, the Lizard Man. Yeah. All right, everybody, we got to get out of here. You already know. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself here on the Rico No Suave show. Once again, another iconic and big shout out to Beatrice Davis. Thank you so much. That was a great connection. We love that you did that for us as well, too. Always giving the love out to Beatrice Davis. Thank you so much. And we got to put our social media up, everybody, before we get out of here. Yes, it is the website, www.riconosuaveshow.com. Make sure you please go ahead and check us out there. We have all our information, highlight reels, and all of that great stuff. We have Instagram, everybody. Make sure you go and follow us at Instagram. Yes, Instagram at Rico No Suave Show. Please go ahead and follow us there. Here's the next one. We're on Facebook, Rico No Suave Show. We keep it consistent like the Lizard Man. Yes. And then, of course, we have our big one. Please make sure you go ahead and share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rico No Suave Show. We're continuously building. Make sure you go ahead there. And we got something called Mixcloud.com, which goes into a podcast. Yeah, baby. Podcast. Rico No Suave Show on Mixcloud.com. And last but not least, big shout out to our partner, Red Coral Universe. Check out our past interviews as far as on redcoral.com/Rico No Suave. Make sure you go ahead and check us out there. Everyone, of course, we are going to be back. We're going to be back, everybody, on December 4th. And that's going to be very special. December 4th is my birthday special, right? So I'm a December baby. So make sure you go ahead and I will see you back on December 4th here on the Rico No Suave Show with a couple guests that's going to be here with me. But everybody, I'll see you guys until next time as we end off the show. Just like this. Down.